All right, so today's video is going to be a little guide, not really a DIY, but a guide on doing the thermostat, the water pump, and crossover pipe. And as you can see, it's already done, but here are some of the tips and tricks to doing this job. Now, first off, you will want to put this in service position. You can do it without putting it in service position, but it's going to be very tight just to be working in. So make it easier on yourself and just put it in service position. All you got to do is remove the bumper. You got two 10mm bolts up here that hold the top of the radiator support to the rest of the car. Then three, either 17 or 18mm bolts that hold the bottom of the radiator support. There's one hole there, and then that hole right there is, I'm using a long bolt for the service position bolt, and then through here is the other. Same shit on this side. This side's going to be harder, especially if you have an S4, because of this duct here for the secondary heat exchanger. But if you move around, you'll be able to get through. You can see that bolt back there, and then through this hole here is where you get to the top bolt. Oh shit. Also, there's two brackets down here. One there, and then this one over here. Undo the bolt holding the bracket to the radiator support. You don't have to do it from the subframe. And then slide it out as much as you can. Disconnect this too first before you slide it out. This little coolant pipe that goes to the reservoir. And then you can start taking off the supercharger. So I'll go over a few things on what to take off. There's a lot of little connectors back here. Two of them are the back of the supercharger, and they're hard to get to and easy to miss. And first time I was trying to take the supercharger off, two of the connectors back there kept holding me up from actually getting it out. Let's continue on to the other things. All right, so quick little guide on how to remove your water pump. First, before you even take off the belt, you undo the bolts to the water pump pulley. There's three 10 or M10 triple squares that hold that into place. So before you take the belt off, undo them. That way it's easy to break them loose. Then you have to remove your supercharger belt with a 16mm socket to loosen the tensioner. You get that belt off, and then over on this side, it's a 17mm socket or crow's foot that you would need to do the accessory belt to remove that. Then once you got all that off, that's when you can take out those 7 T30s and get that water pump off. Then you just put it back in place, and I believe it's probably like 9 Nm, so 7 foot-pounds of torque to get it on tight. So I'll finish this shit up. All right, so right now I'm working on taking off the supercharger, where you got the belts off. Undid some of the coolant hoses down there, but still need to undo them up here. Got the intake off. Map sensors are disconnected. I do have the Chipwork Pro piggyback tune here, so I do have their wire just hanging around. And I'm working on these little connectors back here. I'm not going to do a whole DIY on this. There's plenty of them. FCP Euro has a pretty good one. Here's a little trick to getting off these connectors. There is a specific Audi tool that takes them off. But when they're like this with this portion of it pointing towards you, easiest way, if you're having trouble pressing the top here, well, you can see that the little latch is coming out. But if it's stuck or something, you can get a pick and get it underneath and pop that up and then pull while you have that unlatched. A lot of shit back here. But yeah, that's basically it. And then these lines, easy, you just pull up on them and they come out. All right, so here's the stock supercharger. And to get it off, you have 6 13mm nuts holding it in place. You have the 2 map sensors up here. Then very obvious, this solenoid here, you have the little hose here, and then the electrical connector. And you have these three connectors with their hoses. Mark them down, take a picture, make sure you get them right. Then you also have the connector here for this. This is the bypass valve for the supercharger. And what isn't seen, readily seen, and what held me up was this solenoid here. I got the map sensor disconnected, but this solenoid here and the hoses for it held me up. Completely forgot about this one. So you have 6 electrical connectors, 7 if you include the throttle body, and then obviously the intake. So you get those off, but definitely look for this solenoid here and then this map sensor before you try to pull it off. So I got the supercharger out. It was a pain in the ass because I didn't have the height leverage to fucking pull straight up. I'm noticing coolant or dried coolant around one of the O-rings for the intake. Coolant there. A few things I forgot to mention: disconnect the headlights before you pull the radiator's port out. And before you pull the supercharger, there are 2 trim pieces on the sides that need to be removed, and they are held in by 2 torque screws on each side. The supercharger is a bit heavy, so it might help to have an extra pair of hands to help out. Also, I wanted to take a look at the intake valves, seeing that the supercharger was off, and I used a borescope to get in there and take a look. And for the most part, all the valves look somewhat clean. They weren't, completely covered in carbon, so I'm gonna leave it alone for now. I don't know much about this car's history and what's been done as far as maintenance, but a few years ago I used the STP's Pro Series intake valve cleaner, and I wonder how much of that helped to have the valves look like this. Unfortunately, I believe that cleaner is discontinued, so who knows what's out there that can do the same. Alright, so I just used this borescope here, or inspection camera, and so this is your on button, and it connects via Wi-Fi, not Bluetooth. So there's your button, and it'll start blinking and shit, and then it'll pop up on your Wi-Fi settings, and after you download the app, you'll be able to connect. It comes with instructions, obviously, and it also comes with, this is, I guess, for looking into pipes and shit, but it comes with these little extensions that have little mirrors so you can look into corners and shit. And then this dial here is the light. So that was actually useful because I had it full bright going into the cylinder head, and I wasn't able to really see what was going on because it was too bright. So I turned down the brightness and I was able to see the valves. The valves are dirty, but not that bad. I can see the valves, and there's carbon buildup on there. So I want to look at the supercharger. I believe the intercooler bricks are leaking. I think the PCV is fine, but clearly you can see there's coolant buildup here. It's only on this side. On to installing that thermostat. All right, so to remove this crossover pipe, there's 2 T30s on each end. One there, one down there. Same shit over here, up there, and then back here. They're easy to get to, an extension. And then there's a T25 down underneath that connects to the thermostat. And then once that's done, you pull these clips out of the connectors, one on each side. You also take out this hose that goes into here, that goes to the return. Then you disconnect your thermostat or your coolant temperature sensor, and then you should be able to just pull it out like that. So that O-ring is stuck in there. Everything's good to go. There's no signs of leaks. At first I thought that this side was leaking, but it's not. But I'm gonna replace the whole pipe. That's why I undid these. If you're just changing out the thermostat and replacing the O-rings, all you gotta do is unbolt it pull it out and you have enough room to put the new O-rings in place. But now I have access to the thermostat, and I believe those are all T30s. All right, so I got all the T30s out. You will have to work around all these little vacuum hoses and then this fuel line here, but should be able to come out. And the gasket stayed on the car. And I'm not seeing any signs of coolant really blowing through, but I don't know how long this thermostat's been in place, so I might as well replace it. And let's go move down this way. Here is the ECS unit, anodized red, damn near the same as the OEM one. Has that little mounting point for the crossover pipe. They do supply you with a gasket and hardware. So I'm gonna pop this back in. 9 Newton meters or 6-ish foot-pounds of torque for these top screws. This one here is just to hold that pipe in place, so hand tight is good enough. All right, so I got the ECS thermostat in. Just need to torque them down, and I'm using my Anput's 1/4-inch torque wrench. This does inch pounds and also Newton meters, so I got it set at 9 Newton meters. And here we go. Audible click. This one here, you got to get to at an angle, so be careful when installing that one. You don't want to cross thread it or anything. I guess it would be easy to remove the fuel line, but I didn't do it, and it worked out just fine. And final one. All right, they're all torqued down. Now I just need to replace this crossover pipe and we'll be good to go. All right, so I needed a crossover pipe immediately, so I ordered one off of Amazon, and here it is. The stock one, part of the flange here broke off. Don't know where that piece is. This part here where the O-ring goes, it's stuck on the old thermostat. Then obviously I broke this one off because it was brittle, but I fixed it and that actually worked out pretty fine. The only difference between the OEM one and then this cheap Amazon one is the diameter of the holes here. This one seems to be a little bit larger than this one. Same goes here. The O-rings are also smaller, but I'm gonna slap it on and hope for the best. All right, so I got the cooling maintenance done on this car, or for the most part the front part here. The new water pump is in. Got the ECS thermostat in, all red and anodized, and then I got the new crossover coolant pipe in. I got this pipe off of Amazon, and it only comes with 3 of the O-rings or gaskets. The one that goes into here, and then the 2 that on the flanges that made up to the block. Now, they don't give you any replacements for the O-rings that are inside of the, I guess, the coolant hose, because it's this type of connection on both ends. So there's an O-ring inside of this. I measured them, and I found some replacements on Amazon. They're not OE replacements, but they're the same size. So I'll put the links below to those 2 O-rings. They do sell replacement O-rings for this connector here, but they don't for this pipe or coolant hose. So the only way to get that O-ring is to replace the whole hose. I'll just show you guys right now. So the smaller hose is a 29 by 22 by 3.5 millimeter O-ring, and then the larger one is a 43 by 38 by 3, I believe. But either way, I'll have links for those down in the description. Man, I thought I had intercooler bricks that were leaking. That's not the case. When I switched over to these metal bleed screws, the old one broke off. The OEM plastic one snapped off, so I had to try to pick it out, and unfortunately I messed up the threads. So this one here leaks, and that leak was leaking down, and that's why it looked like there was a bunch of coolant, dried coolant around here, and I thought it was the intercooler brick leaking, but it wasn't. I'm just gonna toss it back on the car because these bricks are all right. Alright, so I got the serpentine belt back on, and I'm putting the bolts in for the water pump pulley back in. but for shits and giggles and just to be on the safe side, I am applying some blue thread locker onto them. I already did 2 of them. I just need to finish up this last one. Little dab. It's good to go. I am reusing the original bolts here, so I want to be safe than sorry. And these are 20 Newton meters as well, or 15 foot-pounds of torque. So with the belt being tensioned on the pulley, I can torque these down a spec without having to counter hold it. And there it is. So after finishing up my thermostat and water pump maintenance, put the car back together, filled it up with coolant, started the bleeding process, and right at the bottom of where the crossover pipe meets the thermostat, I had a small leak. So all of this is going to come back out. It's probably on me because this crossover pipe is from Amazon. I went and ordered an OEM one off of FCP, and I have to wait on that. So I'm gonna take this out, and I'm gonna end the video here because I want to make sure it's the coolant pipe and not ECS's thermostat that is causing the leak. So there will be a part 2 of me, I guess, finishing up this and giving a proper review on it. But whatever, that's life.